Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Rise with Anita podcast. And on today's episode, I have the beautiful Melanie Marisol to discuss the full moon in Aries.
All right. So thank you so much for having me, Miss Anita.
Well, thank you for being here. So before we get started, do you have any tidbits of what the energy is looking like minus the full moon energy?
Yeah. So overall, this full moon in Aries is actually happening while we still have five planets in retrograde. So the last time we had our new moon recording, six planets were in retrograde. So now there are five, as Mercury is now direct. But with that, we have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in retrograde. And then Chiron, which is an asteroid that represents the archetype of the wounded healer, is also retrograding as well in the sign of Aries. So a lot of tender emotions might be coming up right now. I have the harvest moon here as my background. So on September 29th, we're going to be having this full moon, and it is known as the harvest moon. And the harvest moon is always closest to the autumnal equinox, which occurs on September 21st/22nd of every year. So this is the time that we are reevaluating the seeds that we planted in the spring. We're reviewing where we have been, what we've accomplished. And I have always known when I did social work, as well as my friends that are nurses, work in the ER, there's always an increase of activity going on in the emergency room during a full moon. It's because the full moon is representing what you need to release, the increase of emotions, things that have been in the darkness are fully illuminated. So that is why the emotions are like all over the place, especially with Aries. I think it gets a bad rep as known for fighting. So Aries is the divine masculine warrior. And so you might be feeling like you want to throw hands, because of all these emotions and the fact that it's a full moon. However, I do not want masculinity to get tied up with aggression or dominance. The dominance and aggression is the shadow aspects of Aries. Divine masculinity truly is being a leader, stepping into action, making moves, right? It's a very proactive energy, whereas the feminine energy is receptive, calm, also into the darkness. It's the creator energy, right? So I liken it to a baby with feminine energy. The masculine comes around, impregnates the feminine. The baby is created in the dark womb space, and then she gives birth to this new idea or this new baby, as it were, right? So I think it's important to understand for this full moon in Aries, what are the emotions that are coming up? If you're feeling very tender, how can you cultivate the emotional sanctuary for yourself? And how can we actually step into that divine masculine energy of self mastery so we can fully feel our feelings? We're not pushing anything down, but we're also not suppressing them, and we're not also acting in like violent outbursts. How can we reach that self mastery?
Interesting. So, in other words, discipline might be a theme for right now
Mhm.
of being more in tuned. And I think that also we are kind of swaying away from Virgo energy, but this energy is still kind of strong. So when I think Virgo, I think having your shit together and, maybe living to more of like a schedule and actually keeping a routine and um really taking the time to think about the harvest of what do I actually need to do in order to get to these goals or whatnot. But actually, to piggyback off on one thing that you touched on, femininity to me is also not only about receiving, but also being in flow. So, and the way I've started to kind of look at the two energies together is by having that divine masculine energy of structure, you actually allow yourself room for creativity because you're not so you're not using your creative energies in the sense of just willy-nilly. You have that structure, and then say you want to create something, you have that ability to flow into that energy because you're not using your creative energy. Just, hey, what do I do today? So just thought I'd add that. Anything else, my dear?
Yeah, loving self-discipline is what we are all about. It's not about disciplining ourselves just to be miserable. So how can you cultivate that structure, that loving, nourishing structure? And in general, what we're noticing with the 5 planets in retrograde, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, we have Neptune and Pluto interacting. So Neptune is the planet of boundarylessness and imagination, whereas Pluto is the planet of destruction and regeneration. So there might be increases in consciousness across the globe that's happening. Saturn retrograde is implying that, hey, maybe we need to slow down to overcome these obstacles. We can't really just jump over them. We got to go through them. So this is a great time for transformation. Uranus in retrograde is a little challenging, usually because Uranus is generally volatile and unpredictable. So again, going with the flow is the thing as well, balancing masculine and feminine energies within. And then we have Jupiter in retrograde as well. So you might have had like a lot of opportunities, but now you're like, oh man, maybe you bit off more than you can chew. So how can you discern what is the best opportunity for you to go after? Additionally, we did enter Libra season on the 22nd of September, 22nd, 23rd. So as you're saying, yes, Virgo vibes are still a thing. We just entered the fall, right? So again, Virgo is about having structure and efficiency. How can you marry that with Libra? Where Libra is all about the people person of the business zodiac, relying on relationships. So how can you rely on the support network that you have to help your business goals come into fruition? And if you find that I'm saying this and you're like, I don't have anyone, this could be a good time for this season to focus on building relationships one-to-one, either partnerships, business partnerships, or joint ventures. So with that, the overall vibe for this somewhat volatile full moon is I rise above the polarity which surrounds me and I identify my role within it. This is a very emotional time sometimes. Politically, it's been volatile, I believe, since 2016. But right now, it's the fall. People are getting back in the swing of things. Sometimes people have fall depression. Maybe some people don't like the way that heads of states are running their country. It seems like there's a lot of economic uncertainty for some people. So with that, how can you kind of acknowledge what's going on, become a neutral observer of it all, and how can you lean into? Now I'm going to say lean into the polarity. How can you separate enough to understand your role in it, and then how can you focus on what you need to be doing? We're not going to get caught up in what's happening all over the globe. You can't fix it all. So how can you step in that zone of genius, channel the divine masculine action-taking energy from Aries, and do what you need to do? I have been accused constantly of spiritually bypassing, quote unquote, and it's really lame, I'll be honest, because it's not so much I'm ignoring what's going on in the world, and I do not deny that there are structures in place that aren't beneficial to most people. Never denying that. But you can only reflect in the external world once you have mastered your internal world. Focus on yourself first. This is not about being selfish and, screwing people over. You don't have to do that. But whenever there's something triggering you, go within, ask yourself why it's triggering, and then integrate that. So actually you'll find that, your external world is reflecting that of inner peace because you've cultivated inner peace. So no matter what's going on globally, all you can do is contribute in the unique way that only you can contribute. And that is enough. The end. You don't have to dismantle entire structures that you don't like. We all have to focus on our one thing.
Exactly. And then to piggyback off that, what I find is a lot of times if you can just get what's going on in your life and not let the outside noise necessarily affect you on your day-to-day. I'm not saying don't pay attention and just ignore. But here's the thing. Sitting around and being like, I'm so hyper focused on all the shit that I can't control. What are you getting out of that? what are you actually going to get out of that? Whereas it goes back to that loving discipline of like, I'm going to focus on what I can control. I'm going to focus on being in the actual moment and seeing what I can create. So just taking a moment to step back to actually focus on going within. Because also, if you really think about it, sorry to go on a tangent here, but if you think about it, a lot of times the change you want to see starts with you, and then your external worlds will start to kind of reflect that. Doors will open. I think 2020 was a really great example of this, in the sense that what people focused on was kind of what was coming about. So for you, it might have been you were so hyper focused on the virus itself, staying safe. And I'm not denying that that's important. This is not here to get political. But for me, I took that as a time to go within. How can I do some internal healing? How can I look and broaden my spectrum? How can I create a new mindset? And my external reality started to reflect that. So I just want to reiterate, we get what we create from what we're doing within.
Exactly. And again, people have accused us of spiritually bypassing. And for those plebeians, I don't want to tell you, like, I'll see you on the flip side. It's cool. You're just not ready to hear what we're saying. And that's fine. I'm going to focus on me. We're not going to get into an argument. It literally is just not worth the time. So if you yourself find people that are accusing you of spiritual bypassing and you really are not, you can just say, okay, thank you. That's true. Sure. And go on with your life.
Right. Because again, being upset by it does not do anything but feed into that energy either.
Right.
So just throwing that out there as something to look at.
Truly embodying the peace that you wish to see is integral.
Absolutely.
And actually, I'll plug this. This is not a sponsored video, but I will say the work of David Hawkins in his work entitled Power versus Force, highly recommend. He explains that, human emotions are on a continuum starting at, sadly 0 to 1,000. And most people are born and reach maybe 250 points. So basically it starts off with like death, shame, guilt at the very bottom. And most people kind of just stay there. And maybe if they're lucky, throughout the whole entire lifetime, maybe 70, 80 plus years, they might progress 5 whole points. Whereas peace is at 600. And then, of course, highest unity consciousness is at 1,000. So again, I'm not telling you guys like, oh, you should just go jump for unity consciousness and like it's going to be great. You have to go through all of those human emotions, but actually you holding the frequency of unconditional acceptance of where people are, not unconditional love because you're not Jesus, but unconditional acceptance of where someone is and choosing not to engage in an argument that is just really going to go nowhere. That is doing more for the world than wasting your time and your breath talking with someone that does not want to listen to you or care about what you're saying. Again, that's not spiritual bypassing. It's called just embodying the peace that you wish to see.
Actually, you just got me into the realm of thinking about the energy. So when you are looking at your energy, right? And to go into that aspect, one of the things that we have to realize is living in authenticity to yourself, whatever that may be for you, and allowing others to live authentically for them without judgment. And let's just be really honest here. Do we all judge? Yes. But doing your best to not judge, because again, each person is unique in their own individual ways, and they're unique to their whole life experience, their generations that they've come from, etc., etc. But if you can vibrate on that energy of authenticity and really just focus on surrounding yourself with aspects that can actually shift you in the right momentum And remember, a lot of times we just need a little 2 millimeter shift. That's all it takes for you to reach your actual next level. But we tend to block ourselves. So going back to this energy tangent I've been on is, how can I focus my energy on what's actually going to bring me up? Because if you're getting sucked into these arguments and then you're depleting yourself, do you have time to work on that business? Do you have time to work on that dream of yours? Maybe it's working out. Now, it's the time to really refocus that. Where are my energy leaks? How am I leaking my energy? Are you maybe scrolling on TikTok too much? Do you need to take a step back and be like, I should delete this app off my phone? Or I should put boundaries with this app on my phone? Or are you comparing yourself? These are little energy leaks that you do. We all do it at some point, that do not serve us. And the more you can be conscious, the more you have a way of shifting them.
Exactly. Being conscious, being a neutral observer, and integrating it is the key to life, cultivating inner peace, and getting through this particular full moon. So with that, I can go over each of the zodiac signs. And if you feel called, you can add whatever you want as we go through. So are you ready?
Sounds good. Yes, let's do it. I'm excited.
All right. So for this, we have, I have the zodiac signs for, excuse me, I have each zodiac sign available for the sun, moon, and rising. So again, if you don't know your sun and moon and rising signs, you could always message me. We can figure it out. And whatever I say, take what resonates and leave the rest. This is a collective horoscope after all. So we have Aries, sun, moon, and risings. So you're having some serious full moon glow up energy going on right now. It's coming in hot. So it's time to remove any barriers that have been stopping you from your fullest expression, especially when it comes to the physical body. So now that we're actually kind of getting back into the swing of things, we're getting into the fall, has there been a workout you've been trying to do, but maybe you live in California like I used to, and it was just too hot to exercise? Maybe with the cooler temperatures, is there a workout you've been trying to do? Is there anything that you've been trying to do to build your inner strength physically, as well as internally, the resilience? So that is what I have for Aries, sun, moon, and risings.
It's interesting you brought up the internal resilience, because for me, what was really striking was, how can I start looking at maybe my emotions, my thoughts, especially, and seeing, are these things serving me for my highest good, for what I want to create? Or do I still have some sort of barrier, some sort of energy that's stopping me from creating and cultivating the life that I want? So maybe it's time for you to really hone in on what you're believing, what you're thinking about, and start paying attention without judgment to what thoughts come up.
Yes. Yep. Being objective is the key. All right. So we have Taurus, sun, moon, and risings. So you're going to be feeling this full circle completion on the deep inner work you've been doing. So you might have felt this is a pretty purging moon for Taurus, sun, moon, and risings. So you might have felt like you've been really working on wiping out, rewiring some subconscious beliefs that don't really serve you, getting rid of unhelpful thought patterns that are really not going to serve you at the next level. We are stepping into Libra season right now. So this is the time to go out and socialize. So what can you do? Are there any unhelpful stories you might have around connecting with people and connecting with yourself? So as soon as, again, you got that inner peace down, you're going to be able to accomplish what you set out to do during Libra season.
Beautiful.
All right. With that, we have Cancer, sun, moon, and risings. So you might feel a full circle completion in the relationship you have with the social circles that you choose to be a part of. So this is especially a time to reevaluate the groups and communities that you consider yourself a member of. So it's time to reevaluate who you associate with, how supportive they are of your goals and yourself. And if there's other groups that you have the time and discipline to cultivate relationships with. Again, this is not about throwing people out with throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't have to cut people off, but you might find naturally just kind of been feeling a shift gradually to connect with other people. Even if you are cultivating the groups and communities that you've been a part of, and you still have a strong bond with them, you might just be feeling naturally called to check out other groups. So this is especially pertinent for business partnerships. We are moving into a new age. We've been talking about Age of Aquarius collectively for the past 200 years or so, if not earlier. And Aquarius, like Libra, is also all about connections and I'm going to say relationships, community, relationship building. We've been moving out of Capricorn. So Pluto was in Capricorn for the longest time. And Capricorn is very much about the physical, earthly things. But when it comes to Capricorn business, the shadow aspect is like all about the money, does not care about the quality of the product necessarily or the quality of life that their employees have. Whereas Aquarius is more about the fairness, just like Libra. So again, what is I think we're shifting in business as well from just cold DMing people on Instagram, harassing people through LinkedIn messages, right? Like very masculine, not as highly expressed version of masculinity as it could be as an approach to business. Whereas now we're leaning more into relationship building and relationship capital. So what can you do to cultivate actually deeper levels of relationship capital during this full moon and beyond?
See, for me, the way this is showing up is actually putting yourself out there. Because again, people don't know what they don't know. So if you're actually not allowing yourself to meet new people, and if you're not allowing people to know what you do, how are they going to actually refer you clients, or how are they going to help you develop these relationships? And not that I'm saying go into these relationships with that sole intent, because again, you want to be adding value just to any person that you have in your circle, right? Regardless if they're business or personal, you want to be adding value. And then in turn, most people end up wanting to naturally add value to yourself. So maybe it's the time to reevaluate. How are you adding value to others? How can you continue to add value? And then also, how are people adding value to your life? And I'm not saying just cut them off if you think that you're not giving you anything, but maybe reassess who these people are that you're going to and you're communicating, and what types of conversations are you having.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that was for my Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Risings. Apologize if I misspoke earlier. It's very loud outside my house right now. All right, so we are moving on to Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So you may find yourself reevaluating the work that you do every day. So is it really what you want to be doing? You may find yourself at the height of your levels of competence in your current field. So you're really good at what you do, and it's okay. But maybe you're finding yourself back at square one when it comes to doing the work that lights you up. Maybe you actually started off on a journey when you went off to college. You wanted to, for example, be a writer, but then your parents suggested that you become a lawyer. You're doing that and you're okay at it, but actually at your core, you want to become a writer. So this is the time to release any of those hangups and like feelings of self-doubt, like, oh, can I really do this? What you want to be focusing on is how can you release that which may be blocking the true path to your actual legacy?
Thought that actually came up for me in a conversation this week is this career actually fulfilling you? So let's be honest here. Sometimes you're in a job, right, that you're doing because it pays the bills. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, for me, and while this is not something that stands true for everyone, and I acknowledge that, because not everyone's passions or their purpose is tied to what they do on a day-to-day. But are you making time for that purpose? Take back a moment to really let that sink in. Are you making time for what is important to you? Are you actually taking the time to at least explore or allow yourself to dream and seeing how that feels for you? Because so many of the times we just don't take action because we're stuck in here about whether or not we can do it. So just take a moment and think, is this fulfilling me? If not, what do I need to rewire in order for me to actually live a life that is more aligned?
Right. And the focus is on your life's work, what is truly lighting you up, not so much career and making money. So that's a distinguish, right? That's how we can
Right.
distinguish. All right.
Side note, just as a sidebar for me, when I find that I work on my business, yes, it's a business. Yes, I'm trying to make an income from it, but you don't find yourself getting bored, or you don't find yourself. Are there boring aspects to it? Yes, I don't love every aspect of my business for sure. But when I'm actually in the business, and there is a distinguishment of on versus in, but when I'm in my business and I'm in my flow, it energizes me. So maybe also taking a moment to really look at how your energy feels, because a lot of times we know when something's not right because it's coming out of force. You may feel an energy of boredom. You may feel an energy of stagnation. Pay attention to these little signs and really maybe take the time to reevaluate. Am I even passionate about this? Do I see myself doing this? And as a side note, if you would be miserable working that job for 20 years, why are you wasting your time doing it now?
Right. Agreed. All right. Moving on, we have Leo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So you're going to be experiencing a refresh and release, a reevaluation around your beliefs, your higher ideals, your personal philosophies, and the values that comprise your personal manifesto when it comes to life. So you have been probably reaching a higher level of consciousness. And in order to progress to fully to the next level, you must release any of the ideals or beliefs or thought patterns that are not in alignment with your next steps. So what needs to be released? Sometimes people might find that they need to go to a religious order. Maybe they weren't raised in the church, and then one day in their 20s, they found God or Jesus or whatever. Are you in a cult or are you in a pretty cool church? Either way, are they espousing things that are not necessarily true? Like, that that's not the case. So it's a good time to just reevaluate that, see where you're going. As we go into the fall, right? We're harvesting what we planted. We're reviewing all that we've accomplished. And then we're also moving into, in October, a new fiscal quarter. So how can we, I guess you could say, end the year with a bang, but how can you do that with integrity? So for example, if you're a business owner and you have products that you want to sell, digital or otherwise, for Black Friday, how can you do it in a way that is aligned with your values? How can you do it with integrity? How can you sell without manipulating people into buying from you? Again, I think the key thing is integrity. How can you cultivate that integrity to ride out the rest of this year and apply it for the rest of your life? All right. With that, we have Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So there is going to be a death and rebirth with that, which you find that you cannot face easily. This could be especially true for all of the things that are societal taboos, such as sex, death, and money, right? It's pretty metal kind of full moon here for you. So if you allow it, this could be a great time of deep transformation regarding your debt, your finances, maybe dealing with them. So you actually might find that you could grow exponential wealth. But also having that intimacy with your money is integral to doing that. Additionally, you might have a transformation regarding sex or sexuality. So by facing the darkest shadows of yourself and shining a light onto them, you allow yourself to transform into the highest levels of self-mastery.
I'm just going to go ahead and add, maybe if you're also in this process of this death and rebirth, you're actually just needing to reevaluate, especially when it comes to money. What is coming up in terms of how you were raised, what thought patterns weren't serving you, especially if you want to take a moment to think about phrases that were used around money? Did you hear a lot of, I can't afford that right now? Or rich people, XYZ, whatever the statement was for you? Or did you create beliefs about, oh, I have to work hard for money? This would be the time to really look at that and just be like, is this true? And okay, are there other examples of people that this might not be the truth for? Because if it's not necessarily true for others, then why are you holding on to the belief?
Right.
So cultivate beliefs that actually serve you is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and honestly, the more real and raw you are with yourself, the more you can face deeper levels of transformation and self-mastery. So with that, moving on to Libra's sun, moon, and risings. So you might find that you're actually wrapping up maybe a group of clients with your one-to-one work, and maybe getting ready for another cohort, if you will. So with all that, maybe you need to do an evaluation, because you might find that your containers, either group coaching or one-to-one services, might need a bit of a refresh or restructuring. So, for example, maybe you need to become a bit more hands-off when it comes to one-to-one coaching, and maybe you might need to establish healthy boundaries between the client and you as the coach, since we're in this full moon in Aries. And Aries is all about asserting himself, whereas Libra likes to people please. Maybe you find that the restructuring would help you regain some more time for yourself, and you actually make better results with your client as well. So just being honest, looking at the restructuring of it all. So what needs to be shook up, I guess you could say, with the experiences to work with you, especially to promote them for the next quarter?
Yeah, boundaries is really coming in hot for me right here. Taking the time to see how much energy you really want to be pouring into these one-to-one clients. And I am not saying do not serve them at a high level, but okay, they're paying you X amount for support, right? Maybe it's time that you alleviate, okay, I'm only answering you Monday to Friday. If you message me on a Saturday, I'm not responding. Boundary. And it's when we implement these loving boundaries in our business that we actually cultivate that energy of people respecting it more. Or maybe for you, it might be, hey, you missed a payment. I'm not serving you until you're caught up. Or you're backlogged on your payments. Next time you want to re-sign up, we need to pay in full at first. What we are restructuring and implementing a loving boundary so that this relationship or partnership, whatever you want to cultivate it as, is working and beneficial for both sides.
Yes. How can you create that? How can you co-create a transformational container? So nothing wrong with containment. It's more of an issue if there is no containment and everything's everywhere and it's not good seen. Okay. Moving on, we have Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So you're going through a reevaluation and rearrangement of your daily routines and rituals. So how can you create a space for nourishing structure and healthy habits that are based in holistic wellness? So it's a time to release any daily routines that have gotten stale. It's also a good time to use this liminality to dream up new habits for the daily life that you're trying to create for yourself. And you also want to be shifting your relationship to productivity. So productivity has been a thing people have been talking about, I feel like, since 2010. I think that's when entrepreneurship became pretty in vogue, mostly because there was a financial collapse a few years earlier. So it's nothing wrong with productivity, but like, why are you doing it? Is it just so you can get more work done? Is it actually creating income for your business? Like what? Maybe it's a good time to reevaluate. What is productivity for you, and what does it look like?
Right. And on that note, maybe it's time to reevaluate again, getting more cyclical. So for me, just as a personal Scorpio rising here, the sun is now rising at a later time, which means in order for me to go on my daily walks, I have to do it at a little bit of a later time. So it's adjusting Not necessarily waking up at the crack of 4 a.m. anymore because there's no use. I don't need 3 hours before work, right? Maybe I allow myself to, again, be more cyclical. So if the sun is rising, at 6:30, maybe I wake up at 5:30. So I have my ample morning routine, and then I can do my walk and then come home, etc., etc. And then what gets shifted is maybe the things that I used to do in the morning for my business now come and become an evening thing. It's about looking at a reprioritization. So it's not you're getting rid of all your habits, but if they're feeling boring to you, or you feel like you have to cross something off of a checklist, well, whose checklist are you chucking it off for?
Right. And as a Scorpio, y'all are all about the constant death and rebirth and transformation. So if you find yourself thinking like, oh, I can't be cyclical, or you think like, oh, I must be doing something wrong because I can't wake up every day and do the same thing, don't lean into that. We're leaning into the cyclical nature. Also, fun fact, this is also called the harvest moon because astronomically, the way it works is that the moon rises only about 30 minutes later each night. So basically, it's getting ready for the winter solstice. So basically, the moon rise is always later and later in the evening. So over time, that provides extra light after sunset for harvesting. So the corn, if you will. So just thought it was interesting why it's called harvest moon. So in the event that you are also farmers, this is the time that you might find like, okay, well, in the spring and summer, we were getting up really early to do most of the work. And in the summertime, especially, you want to get up earlier so you're not dying in the heat, by 9 a.m. But now we're getting into the fall, we're harvesting, we're getting ready maybe to plant some more hardier plants that are more root vegetables and such. So this is the time to actually start your day off a little bit later so you can work later. And then by the end of the day, you're tired, right? Because your circadian rhythm is activated. So it's not so much that you worked all day and you're exhausted. It's just more of like, oh, okay, naturally, I'm getting very tired now at 8:30. I'm finishing up harvesting this corn or what have you. Now it's time to go to sleep. So leaning into the cyclical nature of being. Okay, moving on. We have Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So you are experiencing a rebirth and renewal of your creative life force energy. So this is happening, of course, during the full harvest moon. And you might be facing a culmination of a creative project that you might have begun earlier this year. So, as we head into the colder months of this year in the Northern Hemisphere, you are invited to reconnect with your hobbies and the activities you do for the pure joy and play of it. So, what activities or hobbies have you put on the back burner in recent months, and how can you make time for them now?
Again, how can you actually allow yourself a window of time to enjoy? Think about as a kid, you were allotted some sort of playtime. How can you bring back play into your day to day?
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. We have Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this is an opportunity of immense release and maybe an opportunity for immense intergenerational trauma healing, and maybe an opportunity to reconnect to your ancestors. So again, very intense moon for Capricorns here. So what you choose to release during this full moon affects 7 generations before you and 7 generations after you. So you do have the ability to heal and restore your family line so that healthy emotional closeness and psychological security can not only survive, but thrive, right? We're moving into the thriving era. So release all that no longer serves you emotionally so that you can call in that closeness that you crave. Especially true because Capricorn is all about working and long-term vision. But what's the point of working so hard and having such amazing material success if you don't have anyone to share it with? So this is a really great opportunity for immense, mind-blowing growth and healing.
I'm really getting the call to really emphasize how can you release the patterns, especially in your family, that were not serving you, whether that's in the way the relationships were handled or finances or um just how even you personally have handled your family relationships. So what I mean by that is, are you working 6, 7 days a week just to come home and tell your family, I'm busy and I'm tired? Or are you actually stepping into taking time for them and cultivating that energy of, hey, let's have a connection? And maybe that looks like, sure, you're working a lot, but that 1 hour that I'm with you, I'm going to be extremely present.
Mm.
I'm not checking my phone. I'm not taking phone calls. I'm with you. And really reevaluating, well, how have these relationships in my family been? What patterns do I need to change with my own children, if you have children? Um, or what patterns do I need to change within myself? And also, this would be a good time to really look at what you yourself feel about you. Are you working so hard from a place of ego? Or are you working so hard because you actually just want to cultivate an energy of, I love this and I want to provide for my family? Really reevaluating that.
Right. Agreed. All right, moving on. We have Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So, this is a time of death and rebirth around your relationship to social media. So, especially for the contrarian Aquarians, I think it's going to be a hashtag. So, for the contrarian Aquarians who hate social media, you are the technology focused visionary leaders that we need to see as Aquarius rules technology. So, sometimes Aquarius can be a little bit too cool for school and like not be bothered with social media. And I don't think I'm going to clarify here as well. This is not about growing social media to have 1 million followers. Like, why do you want that? I mean, this is about broadcasting your message so that the people that are meant to find you can actually find you. Yes, you can totally do this in person. You can definitely do relationship building, as we mentioned earlier, like in-person meetings and networking. But you're Aquarius and you rule technology, so you might as well lean into the gifts that God has given you. So we need you to show up online so that those that you are meant to serve can find you. So how can you broadcast your unique, sometimes polarizing points of view in an artful, deliberate way that reaches your soulmate clients? You can piss off other people that are not meant for you if that, is like fun for you. But at the end of the day, you're doing it from the intention of how can I connect with those that I'm meant to serve? You're not here to be popular. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And for me, the way this is kind of coming up is maybe you need to look at coming up on social media not based off of what you think the algorithm is going to push out. So I've been recently finding a lot more stories of the more I start to take a stance and use my voice and use my outlandish ideas, the more I found that people engaged with me, regardless of what the algorithm or how I posted it, whether it was a reel or a carousel post or whatever. It was more about the energy behind it. So,
Mm.
how can you cultivate the energy of, I'm going to say what I have to say, and I don't care if it pisses off a person? Because at the end of the day, for every one person I piss off, there might be 30 people who agree with me.
Yeah, and just because they're not liking or engaging with your stuff, like commenting, doesn't mean they're not creeping. You know what I mean? So this is, again, I'm going to clarify, this is not about being polarizing just to create controversy and like be a shit starter. This is
Yeah.
more of shining your unique light. You generally don't care anyway, so no reason why you need to hold back now. And now that we have the fall coming, it's a good time to do a seasonal refresh anyway. So maybe you might be a little bit more edgier. Maybe you've always secretly wanted to celebrate Samhain, which is that European pagan tradition that happens around Halloween. Like be out here, be edgy, embrace your inner witch if you've been feeling called to. It's time to do it. Okay. So we have Pisces, Moon, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So you're going to be experiencing a new level of self-worth, physical embodiment, possibly wealth accumulation, as soon as you release the mindsets that might be holding you back. So clearing unhelpful money stories that don't support your highest vision of material success is a priority for you right now. So I just want to add, you incarnated on this planet to experience all 5 earthly senses. This dimension, this particular planet is very much into the 5 senses, right? Might as well experience all of it. Additionally, desiring wealth, cash money is nothing to be ashamed of. So, how can you make space to call in the physical wealth and material possessions that you've been desiring? Additionally, I will add, I don't know if people are still celebrating it, But there was that show, Parks and Rec, and the one episode was about Treat Yourself Day, which happens, as I confirmed, every October 13th, which is the day after my birthday, in case anyone was asking. So how can you treat yourself when you're releasing during this full moon? And how can you call in that which you've been wanting?
And actually, going back to something you kind of triggered for me with this particular sign is maybe there's no need to feel shame about being honest about why you want what you want. I want money because I want to buy a Chanel bag. I want money because I want to travel in a luxury way. I want fame because I want to have contacts with people that I've never been able to have before. Whatever the case is for you, just own up to that. Because when you're trying to diminish that energy of the core reason why you want it, and you're making up fluff around, I want money because it's going to be generational wealth. There's no shame in having it in this moment off of what would be a selfish desire. Because the reality is, if you look at pretty much any person that's successful, they first start off with wanting something different for themselves, and then they go outwards. So just really hone into that energy and be accepting of why you want what you want. There is no shame in that. So release that shame so you can actually attract that more so.
Right. And I feel like this is a challenge for Pisces since it is, the 12th sign of the zodiac, usually the most mature, the one that is most concerned about unity consciousness and everyone getting along and absorbing all the other archetypes and their lessons. That's fine. It is also believed that Jesus Christ was a Pisces sun as well. He was ushering it in a time of one love and higher consciousness, which is great. We cannot be all airy fairy though all the time. Pisces can very easily, since it's like ruled by boundarylessness, kind of float into the ether, float away to the depths of the sea, and like kind of float around. There's nothing wrong with desiring material wealth because we live in a dimension and a world that requires it. So you can do it ethically, and you can do it and be fabulous, and you can do it responsibly. So you already have the ability to care about other people and have deep compassion. So the money thing should work out if you're aligned with your soul mission or your divine assignment.
Beautiful. Well, that was it for our Aries full moon reading. I hope this was actually helpful. And if it was, please, 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 I usually do not ask this, but go ahead and comment or subscribe below. And we are going to be here to serve you going forward. Again, I want to go ahead and take the time to say thank you to Melanie because this was an amazing reading. And I think we did a great job of cultivating that energy that is to be expected. And Melanie, just so before we wrap up, please share how people can connect with you and what offers you might be having right now.
Right. So anyone can find me online. You can find me at Melanie Marisol. So you can find me at melaниemarisol.com. You can find me on LinkedIn with the same name, and also on Instagram at Melanie_Marisol. Let's see. I also have readings below in the description box. And also, I'm going to put it on the comments as well. So I do a divine assignment and legacy building reading. It's 90 minutes long. You get lifetime access. And it's referring to why are you here? What did you incarnate for? What's the legacy that you're born to leave behind? This is not necessarily financial, although that can be included in it. But I work primarily with small business owners to medium enterprise CEOs. They're very firmly in their zone of genius. They're succeeding very well, and they're in a space of spiritual longing. So what is the real reason for scaling to a multi-million or billion-dollar business? I also provide an aligned abundance reading. So that is also 90 minutes long. And that is more about understanding how to stack cash money. What areas of life are the easiest for you to have the money flow? What areas might be a little bit more challenging, but you can still do it? Where are your planets? For Example, where is Jupiter, the planet of greater fortune? Where is Venus, the planet that rules love, beauty, art, and money, and what people like to pay you for? We can figure out a map, a roadmap to you actually doing practical steps to building a business, meeting your clients, marketing to them, and also stacking wealth. So again, you can learn more about what I do in the description box below and in the comments below as well.
Beautiful. And for those of you who are wanting to connect with me, if you're interested in either coaching or breathwork services or the combination of the two, I do it all. Right now, I am reintroducing my website, so you will not be able to find a website yet. It's under construction. However, I am actually doing a Find My Voice coaching session, which is all about just getting in tune with who you are and what you want. Also, having the Find My Purpose sessions, which is in specific, it's very kind of basic in the sense of it's about finding what you're here to do, what lights you up, what's actually going to be your life's mission, and how we can cultivate a relationship to go ahead and get you working towards that purpose, because once you find it, you want to actually take action towards it. So those are the two offerings I have right now. Again, we can also do a separate breathwork session, completely customized. You do get access to the recording. And so yeah, if you're interested in some one-on-one services with me, you can find my Calendly link in the description box below. Also, you can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, and I will get back to you. And fun fact, I will be coming out with a course all about alignment and getting into the alignment and into the flow of life, and also kind of mastering the dance between the masculine and the feminine, energy. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go ahead and follow my social links below to go ahead and see when that's actually released. My website will be up soon, so I'm really excited because there's some magic that's actually going to be waiting for you. And I'm just going to throw this out here. I haven't even offered this out yet, but if you are interested in a custom meditation, completely for whatever it is you're calling in, maybe it's the wealth, maybe it's the abundance, or for you, it might be the love. I am totally able to do that. I will work with you one-on-one based on what you need and tailor a meditation for you. So if you're interested, again, find me below, and I look forward to serving you. Melanie, again, thank you so, so much for your time. And I hope this actually helped the collective. And if it resonated, I'm really grateful to be able to share. We will be back in 2 weeks with another new moon reading.